Hey, everybody. Welcome to Scout Fantasy PGA DFS. My name is Alex White. I am here this week with my co-host, Mark Ferris. How was vacation, Mark?
Vacation was good. Yeah, we had a little bit of time in the islands, down the Bahamas. Again, I told Al I couldn't watch the live stream because just like they're casual and laid back on the island, so is their internet service. It's casual and laid back, and it wasn't fast enough to run the live stream. So
It's normally how it works on vacation. I was in Charleston the week prior in a hotel and no service. I think they do that for a reason. They want you to be present on your vacation, which I don't mind.
I think
Kind
so
of
too. It was all good though.
well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. How'd you do last week? Anything you want to talk about and tell our listeners?
No, like I said, I got a couple lineups in before I left. I did get 6 out of 6 through on FanDuel and won a little bit. DraftKings, by the time I left, only had three tournaments up, so I really couldn't play a whole lot. And I think one of them was a $200 and some or $2,000 entry fee, and I'm not touching that. So I ended up with 3 lineups, and as we were talking earlier, I literally had Molinari and Fleetwood in the same lineup and tinkered with it too much and ended up dropping one of them out and put Hao Tung Lee in and filled in with somebody else. I think, it was a decent lineup, but it wasn't great. I had 4 out of 6, I think, on all of them.
Yeah, it's always tough watching, when you tinker and then you see at the end of, round one, you got guys that are up in the lead or after, Friday, it's like, oh man, Fleetwood's like going off, that's hard to watch. And then he goes off and plays okay on Saturday or plays like crap on Saturday and comes back and has a good Sunday, which you did call it on Slack. I saw it too. I played him in some showdowns on Sunday and ended up getting me some money back.
Yeah, old Mollywood came through again.
Yeah, Molly was an awesome call too. All right. Well, this week we're heading to the players, and I definitely have some love for Molly this week. We'll get to him shortly. The players, it is TPC-Sawgrass. It has been played here for years now. It normally plays in the month of May, though. Mark mentioned it hasn't been played in March since 2006. So it's been quite some time. So the course plays a little bit differently than it normally would in the past years. A couple months, grass is growing a little bit differently. Most of the time they plant their seeds in January, so they're not fully grown. The Bermuda greens might not be as swift as they normally are. Also, the rough won't be as high. And I think, with the temperature differences from May to March, the ball will definitely not fly as far. So, a little bit distance this week compared to other times I'm targeting players. Last year, like Webb is not great off the tee, but when it's, 10, 15 degrees warmer, the ball travels an extra 10 yards off the tee. And that makes a big difference for some golfers. 10 yards doesn't seem like a lot, but that's a whole extra club for some of these golfers. And they might be comfortable with a 4-iron and not comfortable with a hybrid. And that's the difference sometimes. So, that's worth noting, and I just want to make sure people do realize that. I will be targeting bombers a little bit more. They're not like my main focus this week because I want really good approach players, but a good driver of the ball is definitely something I'm targeting more so than last year's players.
And I think you mean accurate bomber as opposed
That's
to
correct. Yeah,
it all over the place. And the other thing you got to remember too is that even though we're still in Florida, this is the northern part of Florida in the Panhandle. This isn't West Palm Beach or down in the southern part, so the temperature's even going to be different from last week to this week.
Yep, and it is a par 72, plays a little under 7,200 yards. It ranks 29th out of 51 courses in difficulty on the PGA Tour. And also, Bermuda greens, but there are 4 par 5s on the course. So, hopefully if we do get some accurate bombers, they could take advantage of those par 5s for us. It is worth noting last year, Webb, even though he won gaining over 8 strokes on the greens. So putters really do tend to get to the top of the leaderboards on these fast Bermuda greens. He lost strokes through approach, which really surprised me when I was looking because Webb is normally a pretty solid approach player. And last year he lost over a stroke on approaches throughout his entire players tournament and ended up winning pretty much on the greens, which normally doesn't happen, but that's something I want to target as well as golfers that can play well on the greens this week. So Mark, top tier, rolling all the way from Brooks Koepka at 10K all the way up to DJ at 11.4. And guys, we will be going off DK pricing this week. DraftKings. So Mark, what do you think about Brooks all the way up to DJ?
Well, first off, DraftKings pricing is a lot softer this week than it normally is. So you're not going to have the huge discrepancies. There's a lot of available guys lower down, so you can play maybe a couple more, 1, 2, even possibly 3 of these. Some of these guys in the 9,000 range up, just depending on how you want to structure it. But yeah, I mean, in that top tier, I mean, you gotta root for DJ. I mean, the way he's playing, you know, he is an accurate bomber. Typically, he's pretty accurate with his driver. So I look for him to fare well there this week. He hasn't won this, but, you know, he has a good course history. He makes the cuts. It's just he's more often than not in the top 10 or top 15. But, I mean, you know, he's always somebody that can win at any minute. Probably if you want to rank my four favorite guys in the above 10,000, I probably like DJ. Then I probably would go with Rory McIlroy and JT. Justin Thomas, probably about the same. And I even have some love for Brooks Koepka this week. He's playing better. You know, again, I just think he might show well this week. The 2 guys that are there that I'm a little less on, but I'm not saying to rule them out, is Tiger Woods is one, but the only reason I'm not as much up on Tiger is because, you know, what's Tiger's health? I mean, he says he's fine, you know, but is he? You know, probably he is, but, you know, it's not something I would want to load my team up with all Tiger. Justin Rose, I mean, I love Justin. I do. But I'm telling you, last weekend, I don't know what that was. I think I even put on Slack, I said it was almost like he shut it down and said, let's go ahead and get to the players, because he didn't play well at all on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, after he had that poor round on Saturday, he was still on the NBC like Sports Gold, like featured groups. And so I was watching him play, and him and his caddy were trying new things on Sunday. So they, like, after Saturday, after he's pretty much like, I don't have a chance, you could hear him and his caddy talking. He's like, oh, I tried, you know, hanging out a little bit more on the right side. And they were just doing new things. So I don't know if he's in a certain sort of adjustment, because he played fine on Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
And, you know, Justin Rose normally picks it up on Saturday. That's when I always expect Justin Rose, like, oh, -5 or, you know, 8 under. Like, that doesn't surprise me when I see a Justin Rose Saturday like that.
And I know these guys do it all. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I know these guys do it all the time. But if you're playing as well as he's been playing, why tinker?
Yeah, that's what was throwing me off. Maybe he just got really frustrated on Saturday, but it definitely wasn't working. But his ownership is going to be low because of that poor weekend. And that's what happened the week prior to him winning earlier in the year. I don't know if people remember, they were all on him the week prior. He played like crap during the weekend, and then he came out the next week and won. So I will definitely be playing Justin Rose and some GPPs.
Yeah.
He won't be my top owned golfer, but he's a very consistent golfer. I mean, you know, he's only last year he was tied for 23rd, and the year before that T65, T19 before that. So he's not really got great course history here. But like I said, the course is going to play a little bit differently, guys. I'm not really looking at course history as much as I normally do with the March compared to May. So the course really is going to play differently, and I can't stress that enough. I honestly think the leaderboards will look completely different in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I can't find it right, but I actually went back and looked at 2006 just to see if, you know, see if anybody was still playing. And if you want to just do something for fun, go to PGAtour.com and pull up past results and go back to 2006, and you're going to see probably a half a dozen or more players that are still playing. Garcia was one of them. Furyk's one of them. You know, some of these guys in their 30s, like Garcia, you know, they were around then. It's only been 12 years, 13 years now. So, you know, some of those guys have been playing that long. So some of these guys have played this course in March.
Well, I do like Brooks. You mentioned Brooks as well. I definitely want to touch on him. I just think he's a way better putter on Bermuda than any other green. Once his putter gets hot, I mean, you know, a couple weekends ago, he was tied for second, I think is what he came out with. And he has that ability anytime he goes out on these, you know, big field, it's the 5th major, guys. And he won 2 last year. Let's not forget that. So this is considered a major in most of these golfers' books. So I honestly think Brooks is an awesome GPP play because I really do think the ownership gravitates towards Justin Thomas and Rory up in that top range, and even Tiger over Brooks and DJ and Rose. So I like DJ though. People were sleeping on him when he won, and I mean that's just kind of what he does. He doesn't get mentioned for some reason I don't understand, because he's the type of golfer that can randomly come out and win any golf tournament on any layout on any track. Like, it doesn't have to be a course fit. It's just if his game is on, he can tackle and take down any course in the entire world. And he's that type of player, and there's not many golfers like that out there. But DJ truly is that golfer. So if he's going to, as the week goes on, ask about ownership on Slack. I kind of have a better idea on Wednesday nights where ownership is going compared to Tuesday evenings when we're recording this. So if you have questions about ownership, and, we always say these, 10K and up guys, you can't really go wrong, but ownership is where you can go wrong in this top range.
Yep, that's exactly it. Because I always try to rank them in A, B, and C in my article and just in groupings. And that's just the way I feel about them. But then, I take a caveat to that, and I say, if you want to play somebody because you feel that they're going to win or play better than another one, I'm not going to talk you out of any of them. And that's what I said. I'm not going to talk you out of Tiger or Justin, because both of those could light it up and win. It's just I'm probably a little bit more leery about those two.
Yeah, and I will mention a fun little tidbit that I was picked up on this week. Last year, every golfer on DraftKings that was priced over 9,500, not one of them placed in the top 10. So that's a little tidbit, and I was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. You normally don't see that. So this course it's so different from year to year. It's really hard to pinpoint. There's no true course horse. I mean, Adam Scott would probably be the closest thing to a course horse, maybe even Sergio here. But outside of those two, really, I mean, people, you have even like Rory. He went from, T6, T8, T12, T35, missed cut. And then you have Ricky, he won. And then the next year he misses the cut, then T60, and then another cut. So there's really no consistency with these top guys, so don't feel like you just have to hammer these top guys because the pricing is so soft. I think that's where DraftKings gets you, and they almost trap you with that. So, a balanced approach might not be a bad idea this week, guys.
God, you've got so much to pick from on a balanced approach this week. It's just there's so many guys in that $7,000 to $9,000 range that in a typical week would be in the high eights or the mid eights. So, take advantage of it when you can. There's guys that are lower down that those of us that do this on a weekly basis know shouldn't be priced that low. And this may be your opportunity to pick them up and be able to get more of the guys in the top tier like you normally can in any other given week with DraftKings. So take advantage of it.
All right, let's break down Webb Simpson all the way up to Ricky Fowler at 97. I'll start with this little range. I'm going to go back to Moley. I don't see why you shouldn't play him. He's a really good approach player. He's excellent at ball striking. His putter got really hot. And last year when he went on his hot streak, it started with his putter. And that's why. I mean, he's that type of guy. He reminds me of Hideki in that. I mean, they're constantly in the top 10 in approach and ball striking each and every tournament. It's just, does their putter show up? So I like to ride a hot putter. And if, Moley gained over 4 strokes on the field last week in putting. So he's on Bermuda again on fast greens. I'm going to ride that hot stick. I think he's an amazing cash play. Ownership will be high on him. It should be high on him. But at 8,600, it's an extremely fair price. Also in that range, I will go Tommy, Cantlay, and Xander over Spieth 100%.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to play Spieth, guys. Once again, I mean, I'm on that fade train. He hasn't proven anything, and hopefully he does it. Maybe he does it here when nobody's really on him. That would be fine. But I mean, I just don't really want to touch Spieth at all until he rattles off a couple top 20s or top 10s in a row. But if he doesn't show me any consistency, there's no reason to play him right now. His putter's just off. And I mean, Xander's just excellent tee to green right now, and his approaches and putting. There's a reason he took second, and he did it without ever seeing the course. It was the first time he walked on it, first time ever playing it. Xander comes out and takes second. I don't necessarily think he's going to be like top 5 again. He definitely can be. He's that type of golfer, but he's been a little bit more erratic off the tee this year than previous. So that's something to watch out for, because if you're playing out of the rough here, it makes it a little bit more challenging because there are so many bunkers, and I think there's water on 10 of the 18 holes on this course. So, if you're playing out of the rough, you don't really have a prediction of where exactly it's going to go, especially if you get a bad lie. So he might get some extra water balls or some crappy sand lies, and that's stuff you can't control if you're not, in the fairway. I'm not saying don't play Xander. I think he's an awesome play, and he just consistently goes out and plays well, even if he is hitting the rough. But he's just not as consistent off the tee as like Moley, and then Fleetwood is amazing off the tee. And I really want golfers that are going to put it in the fairway and get it on the green this week. And it might be the same leaderboard. You might be looking at a lot of the same guys from last week, but the course kind of lays out very similar to Arnold Palmer.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'll be perfectly honest with you. When I first went through the list, I thought, wow, Jordan Spieth's not playing. I just completely overlooked him. Whether it was intentional or unintentional, I just had no desire to find his name. To me, I'm like you. He's going to have to prove something before I throw anything at him. Not even in a wild GPP. I don't even think I would even try it at this point.
All right. Yeah, I'm not going to touch him. He won't be in a single one of my lineups. It's kind of like Stenson. I did mention that on the pod last week. I said I wouldn't play him anywhere, but that's fine. He was +5 on Thursday, and I was like, okay, pat myself on the back, and he ended up showing out and had a really good, Thursday and or Friday and Saturday, and then kind of just played okay on Sunday. But sometimes you have to take those stands, and if that's what Spieth does, you've seen him shoot 7 under in round 1. That doesn't mean Friday, Saturday, and Sunday he's not going to shoot even or over par on those days. You can't just bank everything on one round.
Yeah, look at Keegan Bradley.
Yeah,
-9 Thursday and Friday, +9 on Saturday and Sunday. That's like I said. All these guys can play, and all these guys can go south. It's just one of those things. Now, you mentioned Henrik Stenson, and I know we're not down to that price range yet, but he's one I might be willing to take a shot on a GPP this week, just simply because of the way he plays this course. And again, you saw Friday through Sunday there last week that, possibly maybe the old Henrik's coming back a little bit.
Yeah, he was on the feature group, so I actually got to see him golf, which is really cool because I've been waiting to kind of see him. And I mentioned on the pod that I don't really know what was going on with his game, but he didn't really have holes. He was on when he was in the feature group, which was Saturdays and Sundays. He honestly could have won the tournament. He was just missing short putts, but his 3-wood was in the fairway like 16 out of 18 times. And that's what he's been known for. And if he's going to play like that, he's a great option at the Players. That's an awesome price, 7,800. I think of Henrik as like a 9K player anytime he's on a golf course. And he hasn't been there this year, but one good tournament. He had a decent tournament last week, but if he comes back this week, the next time he's in the field, he'll be in 9K if he plays well this week.
Absolutely. And you'll see some price fluctuations next week just simply because it's not a major. So don't expect these guys to stay at this price forever.
Agreed. Let's see. Anybody else in that range? Let's talk about Jason Day for just a moment. So Jason obviously hurt his back, which he's had issues with for years and years. Are you touching him? He says that he's okay and he plans on playing, but that's, if you're putting your hard-earned money on the line, do you really want to risk it on a guy that's, 9,200? So he's going to be one of your top price golfers. And there's a chance that he says, all right, I'm good. I played 6 holes and I'm out.
Yeah. You heard the rumors about him being at Disney World right after that and playing with the kids. So, there were rumors out too that Tiger wasn't really hurt. He was just tired. And it was trying to use the neck as an excuse not to play. But you got an opposite approach here too. The last thing that I saw on Jason Day was he was cautiously optimistic about this week. Tiger's saying he's fine. Tiger's saying he's going to play. Tiger's okay. Cautiously optimistic makes me cautious. I don't know. Jason, I think, is a good fit for this course, and I think he could play this course, but do you trust him? And right now I'm leaning towards not.
Yeah, it's challenging because he ranks out so well in my model. He's top 5. I think he's number 4 in my model. When I see anybody in my top 10, I gravitate towards them. It is challenging, and I mean, I like him so much because I mentioned putting, and he's the world's best around the green and putter right now, and he has been for years. I mean, 2016 when he was winning, his approaches were really good, but I mean, he was just making everything within 20 feet of the hole. He's not as good of a putter as he was in 2016 when he got that hot streak and won the major. But I mean, he took a top 5 last year, and he's good. He's long off the tee. He's accurate off the tee. It's just his approaches that take a hit, but he's so good, in sand saves and around the green that he doesn't have to be the best approach player. He just needs to be middle of the field to really make that impact. Ask us on Slat. I'll have a better opinion on him on Wednesday evening. I really have not made a decision yet. I need to maybe something else releases after the program on Wednesday. Hopefully he goes out there and tries it and sees how he does for a practice round. And if we get some clarification, I'll definitely let you guys know.
Yeah, guys, seriously, what Alex said, get on the Slack if you can, because there's so much updated information that we can come up with on there. Like you said, this is Tuesday evening. It doesn't start till Thursday morning. And there's so many different things that we could find and change, even change our minds. So, get on there. A couple other guys I like in that area too, Al, is I like Tony Finau. I think he's got a shot. Matt Kuchar. And I'm even looking at Patrick Reed. I mean, all these guys have, made, I think all of them have made every cut for every tournament they've been in this year. I'm not 100% sure on Finau, but I know Kuchar and Reed have.
Yeah, the one thing I can't decide on Reed yet. The reason being is he lost strokes putting last week, and that's normally what Reed is really good at, and that's why he's made all these cuts, because he did really well on Thursday and Friday, and then the weekend is where he fell off pretty hard, and it was because he lost strokes on the green. I like Kuchar. I love him. He's awesome on a Pete Dye track. He always has been. He's been known just to tear up Pete Dye tracks. Pete Dye, people don't know, he's signature for, intimidating sight lines. So you always have some sort of water elevation change or raised greens. So the greens are kind of like a bowl and everything feeds down off of them. And, here at the player that feeds down into water and bunkering, like heavy bunkering. So that's why I'm so focused on approach and greens and regulation. I want to make sure that they're on the greens, because even if they're good at approach, but they're not actually, putting it on the green, they're putting the sand. If they suck at sand saves, this is going to be a really tough track. And that's why you see so many different, leaderboard swings from these top guys, is because, maybe one year they were hitting the greens and the next year they were hitting the traps, and it's a whole different game from those traps.
Yep.
So it really is challenging. But this year, with Patrick Reed, I'm going to say I like him. He's in my top 25 in my model. The only thing I do not like is the fact that he lost strokes on the green last week. As far as a consistent golfer, I think he is becoming a better golfer in general, just overall. Every single part of his game is a little bit more crisp than it used to be. But with Reed, but he also won the Masters when nobody was expecting him to. So it wouldn't surprise me if he came out and won this tournament, Mark, honestly. That might be a really good GP play. I haven't thought too much about Reed yet.
And I mean, here's another, to your point, that, do we trust Reed? I mean, below Patrick Reed in pricing, Matt Kuchar, Phil Mickelson, Paul Casey, Henrik Stenson, Ian Poulter, Mark Leishman, Alexander Noren, Gary Woodland. That makes you think. Do I want to stick with Reed, or do I want to go with one of those other names and save a few dollars? Charles Howell III, he's below him too.
Oh, Reed was going to be the lowest owned in that area.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be Hideki at 83, and then Adam Scott. Well, probably, honestly, Kuchar, Hideki, Scott, and then Reed, as far as those three. And then people will go down and play Casey over all of them, I think, at 79. And then it becomes, Stenson probably somewhere in the mix, and then Poulter at 76 are going to be the highest owned in these ranges. But all golfers, I do like all those golfers.
What's that? You said RCB's below him too.
That's 74, right?
Yeah, at 7,400. I mean, there's just so many options.
Yeah, and that's going to push me more towards the balance approach. What are you going to do as far as your approach this week? Because this is a good week to talk about it. This is a very different case as far as DraftKings. When these majors hit, we're going to talk about this another 4 times this year about these pricing. How do you approach these very strong fields, Mark?
My usual approach, and I'll probably do the same thing, is the majority of my lineups. If I do 10 lineups, then I'm saying 8 of them will probably be balanced. Simply because I'm not in love with any of those guys at the top that I have to play them. And we've seen it so many times. Majors bring out guys that aren't the elite. So, those middle of the pack guys, like we've said this so many times, everybody in this lineup can win. They can or they would. Well, not everybody, but the majority of them can win or they wouldn't be here. So, I mean, in this case, a balanced approach is as good an approach as anything. And, I think with a balanced approach, you're more likely than not to get 6 out of 6 through, or at least 5 out of 6 through. If you try to go stars and scrubs and drop way down to try to get 3 or 4 of those guys in the $9,000 range and up, I think you're going to have a lot of risk with those guys that you're playing in the low $6,000 range.
All right. I agree. And that's the issue is I want 6 of 6 to make it through. And I feel like that you're really going to gain an edge more so at the players because that little tidbit, there wasn't a single golfer over 9,500 that was in the top 10. So at that point, if you played stars and scrubs last year, you definitely didn't win a GPP unless you hit every single golfer. Maybe you hit Webb at 7,300 last year. And then you also hit Charles Schwartzel and Jimmy Walker. And when I start saying those names, those are all really good putters. So that makes sense, kind of last year's leaderboard.
Yep.
So, Poulter, go ahead, talk about him. I know you want to. You've been scratching.
Hey, he's the honey badger. I keep saying that. He shows up in majors and head-to-head competitions. It's just the way he is. This course is one that's for ball strikers. He's a ball striker. Typically, he's a good putter. I think maybe last week or the last couple of times he's lost some strokes compared to what he normally does. But typically, he's a good putter. So, I'm going to rely on that. And I think I said that 4 or 5 weeks ago. Until he turns and makes me not want to play him, I'm playing him every time I get a chance. And like I said, if I make 10 lineups this week, he'll be in at least 5 of them probably.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually like Poulter in cash. Right now, it is a little bit early, but I have locked him into my cash lineups. I think he's 9 for 9 for cuts. And he's been top 5 in 5 events this season. So, why not? As a cash, 7,600, that's a killer price for him. They're just refusing to price him up. So take advantage of it until they do. Because honestly, I'm more comfortable playing him than I am Sergio at 91, and Sergio is solid, but I'm definitely more comfortable in playing him over Spieth. I like him. I even like him more than Simpson this week. And Reed, Poulter is an awesome option at 7,600. Guys, though, every time I play Poulter, he disappoints me. I do want to make that noted. Mark, every time he calls him out, I refuse to play him, and it bites me in the ass. But I'm going to play him this week. Mark,
same way with Adam Scott.
If Poulter crashes and burns, you can blame that on me. It is my curse of Poulter. Right underneath him, though, I do like Gary Woodland. I've been mentioning him all season long. He's just a better golfer than he has been in previous years. With this course playing a little bit differently, I think it plays to him a little better. It's going to create a little bit more incentive to be good off the tee, and Gary is top-notch when it comes to off the tee game. So I really like Gary Woodland at that price, and he does have okay course history. Even in 2014, he was T11, 2016, T28. He has some missed cuts in there, but looking through all these course histories, all of these golfers have some missed cuts at this course. So I like Gary Woodland at 75, and all he is a really good putting weekend away from absolutely crushing top fives and possibly even pulling out a W. Nobody expected Simpson to take this down last year, and he did it at that $7,300 price range. So these lower price golfers that have been playing well all season, all it takes is one really, really good week of putting to pull off. And that's what Moldy did. He's a really good approach player, but he had one really good week of putting, and sure enough, he pulls off a win. We've been saying that all year long, and that's all it's going to take, guys. So I like Woodland. If he catches a hot putter, look out.
Yeah, and I also like even a little bit further down, like I said, RCB is down there at 7,400. And this is a guy that I hesitate to play a lot, and I shouldn't, but I do. And I know you like him a lot of times. I don't know if you like him this week or not. It's Bubba Watson. Bubba's playing well. Bubba can shape the ball. Bubba can gear it down. But there's a lot of things about Bubba that causes me hesitation for some reason or another, and I don't know what it is because I like him as a golfer.
Yeah, there's so much shot shaping at this course, but it almost goes in the opposite direction because his pattern is right to left. It's that big swoop, from that lefty right to left, and a lot of these holes actually go left to right. So that's why you haven't necessarily seen him, crush it at this course. He never really has, but he is a bomber. He is really good at ball striking, and if this course does play a little bit differently, it might play to his advantage. He has gained strokes through putting in his past 5 events where he was losing strokes. Historically, his approach actually over the past 5 events has been a little bit better than in previous seasons. His off the tee game, tee to green. Honestly, he's trending in the right direction. I like Bubba. I think that's a great price for a Bubba Watson. Mm-hmm. I really do. It's that price. It's that 7,300 where people probably won't play him, but he definitely should be thought of and in player pools and GPPs. Because, I called it last week. I said he could top 10. I don't know what he ended up finishing, but I think he might have been like -6. It might have been a top 10. I really don't remember. 17. Or no, yeah, 17th position. But he gained 6.4 strokes through approach last week, guys. That's a huge amount on the field. That was actually second in the field. Hideki was number 1 at 8.1 strokes gained. So Bubba took second in approach last week. It's just he lost strokes through putting as he normally does on Bermuda. He's not a great putter on Bermuda. He's better on POA. But, if this is an approach course and he's gained that much last week, why not? Off the tee and approach game could be there. All he needs is one putter to get hot. So that's a good call. I really haven't looked too deep into Bubba. Thanks, Mark, for bringing that up.
Well, the other ones I like down there too, because Bubba started me at 73, and then I just started. But there's 3 other guys that are down there, 2 of which, based on the way they've been playing this year, that pricing I know it's because it's soft pricing, but it's criminal. Is CH3 Charles Howell III, $7,300, and Lucas Glover at $7,100. Those guys are playing incredible this year. Kevin Kisner's even there at 7,000, and I know Kiz has had some issues this year. Hasn't played great, but the last few weeks he's turning it back into the old Kiz and playing better.
Yeah, awesome. All 3 of them. I love Howell. I love Kisner. And who was the other one that you said? Oh, Lucas Glover. Yeah, Glover. Absolutely. He was in my write-up last week. There's no reason not to play him right now, guys. I mentioned in that article, and he will be in it again this week, he has been gaining strokes putting, which he has not done historically in his career, but he's done it consistently over the past 5 tournaments. That's all you need. You need somebody that's really good at approach to gain strokes putting, and that's how they're going to consistently be in those top 20 ranges. And you've seen it with Jason Kokrak, too. They're pretty much the exact same golfer right now.
Jason Kokrak, that's another one. He is
6,700, which is crazy.
That's crazy. It's just that, we go back to Charles Howell III, and you say the same thing with him. Is he finished 17th here last year, which was a great finish, but prior to that, he couldn't hit the broadside of a bar, and he had more missed cuts, I think, than he had 6 missed cuts in 8 years at this tournament. But then he goes 17th last year. But the way he's playing this year, you can't look at those years 8 and 10 years ago. You have to look at the way he's playing now.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love Howell in that range. I love Adam Hadwin, I think, is a good option still. I think he's playing good golf. He had a really good weekend last weekend. Honestly, if people are going to sleep on Keegan, I'm going to fire up some Keegan again. Why not? He's the same exact golfer as I've been talking about. You need a golfer that's going to be good at putting. He did that on Thursday and Friday, and that's why he was top, 2 in the entire tournament. And then he lost strokes putting on the weekend,
Yeah, my only caution with Keegan is, unless things have changed, and historically, Keegan's a head case. Keegan gets in his own head a lot. So I'm hoping that the weekend doesn't stay in his head.
Yeah, yes, he is. I agree with that. But Keegan's also a different golfer right now. He's like a cut-making machine. Isn't he like 9 for 9 on cuts this season? I think he actually made his last like 18 cuts or something ridiculous. Keegan's on fire as far as cut-making guys. So with a T7 here last year, don't take him out of your player pool, even if he screwed you, which he really didn't last week. He still put up a bunch of birdies. He scored well. I mean, you might have been disappointed that he didn't end up, top 10, top 20, but he still had a ton of birdies. He had an eagle in there. It's not like he didn't score for you.
Yeah.
So, don't beat the guy up. He did what Keegan does. He pulled a full Keegan on the weekend. I mean, there was even a poll on Twitter. It's like, when is Keegan going to go full Keegan, Saturday or Sunday? And I put Saturday, and sure enough, Saturday he went full Keegan, and then Sunday he decided to do it again.
Yeah. And I'm not saying don't play him either. I'm just throwing it out there. But I'm also not saying don't say, like I said with Poulter, put him in 50% of my lineups. Don't put Keegan in 50% of your lineups.
No, not at all. Who I will recommend that's okay with, though, I honestly do. I'm so high on Glover, it's not even like. Like, that price is asinine. Him and Kokrak, like, I don't see why. If you want to pay up for cash, just throw those two in and pay up from there. Honestly,
yeah. You can get 4 guys above 9,000 if you throw those two in. So what's that? That's 6,700 and 7,000.
Yeah, 71. Yeah, exactly. And then even throw Charles Howell at 73, and then you can have 3 of the highest priced golfers if you want. There you go. There's your top lineup.
You got close to $30,000 left.
Yeah, it's that simple. So, I mean, don't overthink it, guys. Don't get cute in cash. If you're going to play cash games, play these guys that are just really hot right now, and have consistently been hot for a while. I do like Kisner too. He's playing really good golf right now. Last year, you'll see a miscut, but he was crap last year. It was his worst year that I can remember Kisner in a long time. He's a different golfer. He's kind of turned it around. But last year, guys, I think his caddy had some health issues and was gone for over half the year. And I really think that played a big role in him having a down season. And the reason I know that, his caddy is actually from the town that I live in now. Yeah, so he's known to have like the biggest calves on tour, but which is crazy. He's got these calves, these massive, huge calves. But yeah, now he's finally with Kisner again, and since he's been with consistently, they've been playing really well together. And I'm actually going to attribute that horrible season to his caddy not being there. That plays a big role in these golfers, day-to-day lives. They're traveling with these guys, or their best friends, they're teaching them. They have this different cues. They talk differently. So, when these golfers get these caddies that they don't really know, it's challenging. Kuchar, obviously, and L2 like that was an anomaly. You're not just going to pick a caddy off, any random tournament and go win. That's extremely hard to do. You have to build a relationship and understand and trust each other. You truly are a team out there. So I will attribute Kisner's comeback season to his caddy being back.
Big thing there is trusting the guy on the yardage. You trust your caddy with the yardage. These guys are so precise. It's not like you or me. I can hit the same club and have a 20-yard variance in the club. These guys are within probably 4 or 5 yards of where they need to hit it every time. So another name I want to mention while I'm thinking about it too is down around the $7,000 range is Zach Johnson. Zach Johnson has never missed, well, at least in the last 10 years, has not missed a cut at the Players. He had an MDF last year. So technically he made the cut.
Yeah. ZJ is challenging for me, especially if the course is going to play longer.
That's going to be the key.
Yeah, that's where I'm not saying he's a bad option, because if he hasn't missed the cut in 10 years, there's obviously proof in the pudding. And he's a good golfer all the way around. He's solid. Tee to green, short game, really good short irons. But I don't think he'll be playing with short irons here. I think it's going to be a long game. I think it's going to be challenging and kind of hurt him a little bit than previous seasons. And if I remember correctly, he was #1 in strokes gained putting Thursday and Friday of last week's tournament. And that's what got him to the weekend. He was like 4 under going into Saturday. But in every other category, like approach and ball striking, he was like bottom. I think he was in the hundreds, like ranked in 115, 120. And that's at a course like this, I think approach takes over everything. So I'm not saying ZJ is a bad call, because at 7,000, I mean, if you want somebody, you're like, yeah, I need somebody that I think is going to make the cut, ZJ has a really good chance. I also want to mention Furyk again. Why not? The guy's playing great. He's got really good long irons, even though he's a short off the tee. His long irons are exceptional. He ranks pretty well in my model on Pete Dye courses too. I like Furyk. I think that's a pretty decent option at 71. Anything under that? What about Matt Fitzpatrick at 69? He had a really good tournament last weekend. What are you feeling about Matt?
I don't have a problem with Matt. The only names below that I'm really interested in is Matt Fitzpatrick, Kokrak, and maybe Sung Kang. That's really the only ones that I'm looking at below that number. There may be a couple other ones in there that you can take long shots at. Russell Knox, although his history here is not great. Russell Henley, same thing. Well, Russell Henley actually has – well, Knox and Henley have had a couple of good years here, but they have as many missed cuts as they have made cuts. So they'd be risky, but they're potentially worth a shot. Danny Lee finished 7th here last year, but he's 2 out of 4 in cuts. So I got burned by Danny Lee a little bit last week. But you got to have a short memory, like you've always said. But there's not as many guys in that between 7,000 and 6,500, and below 6,500. I'm probably not touching hardly anybody. Byung-Hun An and Keith Mitchell are 2 other names that I like there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Keith Mitchell surprised me with that tournament last weekend. After that win coming out, and honestly had a chance to win again. Phenomenal Sunday. Kid's really good at ball striking, and he's really good at approach, and he's really good off the tee. It's just if the putter gets hot, which it did even on Sunday, all it takes is one round sometimes. If you're that good at putting the ball that close to the hole, one really good round puts you in the mix. And, Keith Mitchell did that back-to-back weeks. It's super impressive. Any love for Sung J M, because he kind of repeated again. He's back and on the leaderboards once again. Yeah,
I have him on my list, and it's simply because I was impressed by the way he played last week. If you read some of the other write-ups from different people, they call Bay Hill a corollary course to this one. Even though, like you said, temperature differences might be there. So if he's comfortable Bay Hill, maybe he's comfortable here. He has no history. He's never played here, of course. So, but again, look at Schauffele last year. He had no history, and he finished second, 7th, whatever it was, second. So, I wouldn't rule Sung J.M. out. And one of the things, I think you mentioned this on Slack, and it might be the key we were talking about, Zach Johnson. It's been raining a lot there this past week. So typically, I would look at this course as not being a bomber's course and more of a placement position course, which bodes well for the ones like Zach Johnson and all that. But if the course is playing wet and he's not getting any run, even positioning in the proper spot may be too far for Zach. So, you have to carry it all the way. It's a different thing than getting some roll.
Yeah, I agree. And then let's touch on Matt Wallace too. He had a really good tournament last week. And if it's a corollary course, obviously he played well last week.
Yep.
He grinded. He had a really good tournament. He's a really good golfer, and he's proven that he can win. He won 3, maybe even 4 times last season. I think his talent's there. I think he's an awesome golfer. I just don't necessarily know what his strong suits are. I don't really know what Matt Wallace is good at. It's so hard for me to find, all these stats on these European golfers. European Tour just doesn't pump it out like the PGA. And it's challenging for me to pinpoint these Europeans. I'm basing, all these picks, if I ever pick a European, off of, their brief time on the PGA Tour, and then, basically course history, how they've done on some tournaments, in the European Tour. What do you feel about Matt Wallace? I don't necessarily think he's a bad option, especially if it correlates with Bayhill, but he might be exhausted, man. That's a grinding, tournament, the Arnold. And if you're tired, and you might just be like, I don't know. The players is a lot. There's a lot coming into it, so there's a lot of added pressure with it being like a major level tournament and then coming off a really hard weekend. Any love for Matt Wallace?
Yeah, I've considered him. I haven't set many lineups yet, so I can't say that he's in a lot of lineups. But that was kind of what I considered was the way he was playing last week. And if this is a corollary course, like you said, maybe he'll play well this week too. Again, below $6,900, whatever the price is, he's below $6,900. It's another viable option if you need somebody in that range. But again, like I said, once you get to 6,500, I'm not touching many people at all below that.
Okay.
You don't have to.
No, you really don't. I do want to mention Chesson Hadley at 6,700. Last week gained strokes through approach, over 4 strokes actually on the field in approach, which is a really good week for approach on any given tournament. And he got T11 last season. He's at T24 at this course. I like Hadley. I think Bud Cauley is worth a mention. He's only played this once. He's been cut. I just think he's a pretty good golfer overall. He might be that random guy that you're just like, you're not really on. Nobody's thinking about him, but he could pop out of nowhere. I think he's just good talent overall. Doesn't really check any boxes for me. I will say JT Poston because he just keeps making cuts. Yeah. Just keeps making them. At 6,500, I mean, why not? He's never played the course, but, that's all right here. I mean, Daniel Berger even. God, I can't believe I said that name again. 6,700. I can't stand Daniel Berger. But long term, he's a good golfer. I don't know. When you get down to this range, you really don't need to overthink it, guys. If you don't want to, take chances, go back up, and you can make a really good balanced approach. Even you can get into the 10K range, which is stacking up some really good low 7K players. Sung Kang was added to the field too at 6K, which I think is a misprice. He's been playing really well, and he even had another top 15 last week at the Arnold Palmer. So at 6K, that's worth a deep dive. If you want to go real super cheap, he was added to the player pool late. Some people might not notice he's down there. Other than that, Vijay Singh has actually been playing pretty well recently, and he showed some decent course history, T16, T28, T63. And he's been playing pretty well. 2 weeks ago, he had a really good tournament. And actually, wasn't he in the final grouping or one of the last couple groups?
A couple weeks ago or last week. I can't remember which.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. That's what it was.
Yeah, and I'm sure he played here in 2006, too, if that's any incentive for you.
There you go. Let's see. I like the Danny Lee call. He called it out. He had T7. Kind of burned us last week. But short-term memory, guys, even if he hurts you, don't be afraid to go back to that well.
Yep.
And take a chance, like maybe even, Hadley's not a bad call. Berger's not a bad call. Some of these lower-owned golfers in this 6K range, that might garner a couple percentage of ownership, but you're not taking a complete dart like, on a JJ Spawn. And maybe it's not a bad call, but, some of these golfers you can kind of just take out of your player pool and just kind of act like you never saw them.
Yep. Okay.
All right.
Get some lineups?
Yeah, and this is going to take longer than normal. Not the lineups, but that in general did because it's a big player pool and there's a lot covering the players. Just a lot of information, guys.
There's a lot fewer guys you can ignore.
Yeah, I agree, and expect these to be longer when majors hit. There's a lot to talk about. So if it's too long, we apologize. We want to touch it all. If we are going over, message on Slack and say, "Hey guys, hurry it up." We can go quicker, but we want to make sure we're getting out the information and not miss things for you. And
I got to make up for time from last week, so I got to be in here twice as long. So.
All right, Mark, let's get started. Let's do some DraftKings. Let's start with cash lineups. Give me 1 second as I pull this up. Once again, you can reach me on Twitter at Coach White DFS. And Mark, where can they find you?
So definitely on Slack chat, and my Twitter handle is at Ferris1967.
Perfect. And then make sure you're reading our articles. There might be some tidbits in there, maybe a little bit more in depth on why we like our golfers. Mark does something a little bit differently. He does a cool little tiered section, and I just kind of play. This is who I want. This is why I want them, and then I move on.
Teamwork, man.
Yeah, I want to get my plays out there. Make sure you know why I like them. If you have questions on why I like them, want a little bit more in depth reasoning, please feel free to ask. And get a little bit more in depth research. On Slack. That's the best way to really get some good information from us.
Yeah, I went to law school. I have to be a little bit more wordy.
What's that?
I said I went to law school. I have to be a little more wordy.
Yeah. Hey, that's great, man. You can do that. All right, go ahead. Start us off. Cash, I got it for us.
I'm going to start with Brooks Koepka.
In cash?
In cash.
All right.
Why not?
10K, Brooks Koepka. Well, that's just going to leave me with 8K, so I'm going to go Kuchar just to make it easy. I'm not going to leave Kuch out of my cash. It's just silly.
It's not like you're going to have to die for names in the $8,000 range. I'm going Ian Poulter.
Poulter, love it.
Surprising, I know, but
yeah, I'm going to go CH3. Charles Howell III, for people that do not know.
That's a good call, too. We haven't done Molly yet, right?
We have not.
I'll take Molly.
All right, and 8,500 is left. I'm just going to go Hideki at 83 then. Feel like he's the safest call in that option. Okay, so that leaves us Brooks Koepka at 10K, down to Francesco Molinari at 8,600, Hideki Matsuyama at 8,300, Matt Kuchar at 8,000, Ian Poulter at 7,600, and Charles Hall III at 7,300, using a total of 49.8 in our salary. So you have $200 left if you want to pay up for Webb or even Finau over Matsuyama, or you can pay up off other golfers. But I like that. Guys, your lineups are going to look so good. You're going to feel so confident. I mean, like this lineup just looks like there's 0% chance I'm not cashing. And honestly, like I'm going to plug this in just because I think that there's a good chance this cashes. That lineup looked nice. So let's go GPP, and let's go a little bit off the wall as far as where we go with this. So I'll start. I'm going to say Justin Rose. I hope people sleep on him. I really do.
Okay. I'm going to go Lucas Glover.
All right. I'm going to go with – give us a bunch of salary. I'm going to go Sung Kang.
Okay. What we got left?
That leaves us with – that was 6K. So we got 8,900 for 3 golfers, average.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give us even more because I'm going to do Bubba.
Nice. All right. So that leaves me with 9,700. I'm going to go Dustin Johnson.
There you go. Get him in there because I tell you, the guy can win it.
And then that leaves us with $8,000 left.
$8,000. All right, let's take a wild shot here. Like I said, I'm hoping that he turns it around, becomes the old player that he used to be, is Henrik Stenson.
There it is. All right, guys. So Dustin Johnson at 11.4. Then we drop down to Justin Rose at 10.2. From there, we move on to Henrik Stenson at 7,800. We have Bubba Watson at 73, Lucas Glover at 71, and Sung Kang all the way down at 6K, which is in this price.
That's a GPP lineup right there.
Yes, that is GPP. Absolutely. All right, guys. That is it. If you need us, catch us on Slack, not Slack. Slack chats on Scout Fantasy. And that's it. Take it easy, guys. Let's see some green screens.
Good luck.